occurred on August 21st, 2013. And we're going to start with Sham Karkour. She's a Syrian refugee and an incoming freshman at Harvard University. She will be discussing the potential that world has lost due to the tragic death of children who fell victim to the Assad chemical attacks in 2013.
مرح رسلان، يحيى عبد الجواد الرفاعي، لين القطمة، عبد الرحمن القطمة، آلاء فرج قبلاوي، زيد هيثم الدباس. Those are the names of kids who were murdered by Bashar al-Assad due to him attacking various parts of Syria with chemical rockets. These names represent not only the children we mourn today, but also countless others who have suffered the same fate. It is a painful truth that the magnitude of these massacres was so vast that the victims were reduced to mere numbers, their identities stripped away. Imagine for a moment the anguish of their loved ones as they searched for a sign, a trace of their missing children. In a desperate attempt to keep track and identify them, these innocent souls were marked with numbers on their foreheads. It is a haunting reminder of the overwhelming scale of this tragedy and the profound impact it has had on countless lives. As we remember them, let us reflect on the future these children could have had. They had dreams, hopes, and an entire life ahead of them. They were deserving of the same opportunities that privileged children like myself often take for granted. They too had the right to grow, to learn, and to shape their own destinies. We must not forget that these children have rights. The right to a childhood free from fear and violence. The right to education, healthcare, and protection. But Bashar al-Assad and those responsible for these unspeakable acts of violence denied these children their fundamental rights. They robbed them of their innocence, their future, their potential, and their very existence. It is crucial for us to recognize that any one of us could have easily been in their place. The reality is that we were fortunate and privileged enough to escape such horrors and live our lives without constant fear and uncertainty. But we must not allow our privilege to blind us to the suffering of others. Instead, let it serve as a reminder of the responsibility we bear to stand up for justice and advocate for the rights of those who have been silenced. It is our responsibility to fight for their memory, to amplify their voices, and to work towards a future where every child can thrive and fulfill their potential. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Noor Al-Kaddoumi. She is the Vice President of Students for Justice in Palestine at UConn. She will be discussing or recounting the story of a survival of an Assad chemical attacks in Syria, who woke up to a heart-wrenching realization that all of his family members had been killed.
Assalamu alaikum. I would like to recount the story of Ibrahim al-Hussein Alatek, who was a mere 15 years old when the tragedy struck. Thank you. Okay. In the darkness of the night, while he and his family were peacefully sleeping, the regime unleashed an attack unleash an attack upon them, robbing him of his entire world. His father, mother, siblings, and extended family were all cruelly taken from him. At just 15 years of age, Ibrahim was forced to bear witness to suffocation of his loved ones from Syrian gas, one of the most toxic nerve agents that can cause death within minutes. A haunting memory that etched forever in his mind. A decade passed since that fateful night, and it is incumbent upon us to cast a spotlight on this horrific experience. The responsibility lies with us to hold the regime and its ally, Russia, accountable for the unspeakable tragedy. The responsibility lies with us to hold the regime and its ally, Russia, accountable for the unspeakable tragedy that claimed the lives of at least 1,429 innocent people. 1,429 innocent individuals at least, and scarred countless survivors with both physical and emotional wounds. Bashar Assad, a figure stained with the blood of innocent children, denies any involvement of these chemical weapons in the events of August 21st. We must shatter our silence in the name of these victims.
We must what?
Shatter our silence in the name of these victims, those who have passed and those who continue to endure the torment inflicted upon them by Bashar Assad's merciless grip.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we will hear from Amina Al-Masri. She's a Syrian-American educator and a human rights activist. She will be shedding a light on the prisoners of Al-Assad.
Ever since the revolution began in 2011, more than 300,000 detainees have disappeared in the regime's detention prison.
How much?
Pay attention to the number. 300,000 at least have disappeared in regime's detention prisons. Many detainees have died in Assad's prison as a result of starvation, disease, and torture. Over 15,000 innocent people were killed due to torture.
How many?
15,000 innocent people killed under torture. Many families saw their loved ones among the Caesar file, which had about 55,000 horrific photos. Today, I want to share two cases. We're trying to get some information about them. The first one, pay attention to the picture, please. This one is Rania Al-Abbasi. This one, the first case is about Rania Al-Abbasi. Rania is a successful dentist in Damascus, Syria. She's Syria's chess champion and a busy mother of 6 children. Dima, Intisar, Najah, Ala, Ahmed, and the littlest one here, Layan, all aged between 3 and 15. On March 19, 2013, the Syrian government agent came to her home and forcibly took her husband Abdurrahman. 2 days later, they came back for Rania, her children, and even her secretary, Majdoulin al-Qadi, who happened just to be there comforting Rania after she lost her husband, after he was arrested.
What was her crime?
The crime is just being at home, being a human, just comforting her friend. She was a young girl as well. No one has heard of them since. The Syrian regime has refused to give Rania's relative any information about what happened to them or their whereabouts. It has been 10 long years for Rania's family.
Where are her children?
Can you take a look at the picture, please? Those kids are in Assad's prison. It's not any prison, it's Assad's prisons. 6 innocent children. to me. It's a friend of mine. Her name is Maryam Kamilmaz. Her dad, take a look at his picture. His dad is an American citizen, Syrian American citizen, has been held captive in Syria since February 15, 2017. He was unjustly detained by Assad at a checkpoint during his last visit to Syria to help those who were affected. His family have not seen or heard from him since. I'm talking about 2017. There's no action. There was a little action and then it went silent, and the U.S. is not asking for him. He's an American citizen. Majd is a caring therapist, a wonderful humanitarian. He dedicated his life to the service of others by treating patients after natural disasters, including Hurricane Katrina, the tsunami in Indonesia. He even treated war victims in Kosovo and Bosnia. My friend Maryam is waiting for her dad, her family, his wife, his mother. He's the only child to his mother. Has been waiting 6 long years just to hear about any news about Majd. Here's what you can do. We have hashtag for Free Majd, hashtag Free Rania. I need everyone to visit these in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and tweet and share. Everybody has to hear their stories.
Free Majd, Free Rania.
Free
The immediate release, here are our demands. The immediate release of those who have been unlawfully detained. Call on the Syrian regime and all those who may influence them to immediately release a list of names of all detainees along with their current location and status. That's something that you might think it's natural to know, but actually in Syria you don't know if he's dead, if he's alive, is he sick, is he not? We need to immediately stop torture. We need to pressure the Syrian government to allow international humanitarian organizations to immediately deliver food and medical aid and grant them access to detention facilities to closely monitor the living conditions there. Free Syria and freedom to all the detainees. Thank you.
Thank you. We demand the freedom of the prisoners.
We demand the freedom of the prisoners. We demand the freedom of the prisoners. We demand the freedom of the prisoners.
Next, we will hear from Nawal Kharoum, the Pakistan advisor at the United Nations and the founder of NIA Foundation, a non-profit organization that focuses on assisting underprivileged children. She will be sharing her insights and observations from her work with the International Rescue Committee this summer. Hello everyone. Today I want to shed light on the lack of accountability surrounding the Syrian chemical attacks. The Syrian conflict has been marked by numerous instances of chemical attacks, resulting in unimaginable suffering for innocent civilians. However, what's even more distressing is the continued lack of proper accountability for these heinous attacks. Time and again, reports have emerged from international organizations and independent investigators pointing towards the use of chemical weapons in Syria. Despite these clear violations of international law, those responsible have escaped consequences. The United Nations and other international bodies have repeatedly called for accountability, demanding that those responsible for these attacks must be brought to justice. Yet the geopolitical complexities of the Syrian conflict have hindered effective action. Diplomatic impasses, conflicted interests, and challenges in verifying the sources of these attacks have all contributed to a frustrating cycle of inaction. Accountability is not just a matter of justice, it is essential for deterring future atrocities. When individuals or entities
entities can commit such egregious acts without facing repercussions, it creates a dangerous precedent that endangers the principles of human rights and international law. It sends a message that these actions can be tolerated, emboldening the perpetrators and undermining the fabric of global security. As concerned citizens of the world, we must raise our voice against this lack of accountability. We must pressure our state governors to take strong stance in pursuing justice for the victims of chemical attacks. The lack of accountability for Syrian chemical attacks is not just a failure of the international system, it is a failure of our collective humanity. Let us remember that silence in the face of injustice is complicity. It is our duty to speak out, demand action, and ensure that those who perpetrate such atrocities are held accountable for their crimes.
Thank you so much, Noel, and thank you for the work that you have done this summer. Next, we will hear from Reem Hariri Connor. She is a board member and representative of the Syrian American Council of Washington, D.C., and she will be talking about advocacy and different ways we can contribute.
We're good? Thank you, Seth. I don't have anything written down, and I'll be short. My name is Reem Hariri Connor. I'm a board member of the Syrian American Council. I would like just to speak a little bit about advocacy. I know after 10 years, over a decade of the Syrian revolution, a lot of us find ourselves fatigued. This rally probably 11 years ago was, 100 people. Now look at us, 25 or something. But don't let that discourage you. 25 have a lot of power and a lot of voice. Through my work with the SAC organization, Syrian American Council, I realized that we all have a role in this. Small or big, we can do something. This month, August, is the month that our representatives are actually in district, which means if they're here to hear from you. So if you can email your representative, or you can call their office demanding a callback or an email, so they know that you care about Syria, and you can ask them, what are you doing in the capital for Syrian refugees or Syrian detainees? This is really important, and we sometimes through the Syrian American Council we find that the power of emailing one office could change their decision on the capital. So it's really important that we mobilize our efforts, even if there's 20, but those 20 can amplify the work with our representative. So that's the advocacy part. The other thing is my family, my husband and my daughter right now, actually they are in Turkey working with Syrian refugees who've been impacted by the earthquake as well as the revolution in Syria. They were displaced because of the war in Syria, and then they were displaced again after the earthquake. And you can all do something. Sponsor a child who was displaced because of the revolution. Talk to a family who can travel, have the means to travel and help the refugees who are there. I was there during the earthquake, a week after the earthquake, and now my daughter and my husband are there. And the impact is huge. And we have a great community and connection and network here who sent my daughter and my husband with toys and clothes and everything. So there are sometimes you can get frustrated and feel after a decade there's nothing much we could do, but don't underestimate the power that we all can do, and definitely call your representative. And if you are looking for ways for advocacy, please look up the Syrian American Council and see they have a whole list of what you could do from your own comfort in your houses. So thank you so much.
Next, we will hear from Stanley Hiller, the administrator of Promoting and Enduring Peace, and he will be talking about Ukraine solidarity.
Okay, I have a number of props here. You could hold these. Hold that one, all right. First, I'm going to try to start off with music from Dylan.
Look at me, just a child.
Dylan Connor is a wonderful singer. He's doing aid in Syria, Turkey, and this is one of his songs.
You didn't come when I needed help. Though I am gone, you can save somebody else. If only you'd listen. If only you'd try. If only you'd open your heart and let love start. Saving a life. Reach from me, take my hand. Hold me close and you'll understand. If you hear a child cry when they fall, wouldn't you run to them and answer the call? If only you'd listen. If only you'd try. If only you'd open your heart and let love start. Saving a life.
So that was Dylan Connor with If Only You'd Listen. And it is not too late to listen, to take action. Now I'm going to talk about solidarity. Now you see some Syrian flags, the 3-star flags of the uprising. But this is a Palestinian flag. Now what has that got to do with anything? Well, there's many, many Palestinians in Syria thrown out by the Israelis. They fled from what was going on in 48 and 1967. Maybe 800,000 people are in Syria who are Palestinian refugees or the children or grandchildren of refugees. Many, many of them lived in Yarmouk, a camp in Damascus. They tried to stay out of the uprising. It wasn't possible. And they were surrounded. Yarmouk camp, which had hundreds of thousands of people, not only Palestinians, but many Syrians living there too. It was surrounded by Assad forces, put under siege for years. You may remember an amazing picture from maybe 2015. It showed this crowd trying to get food. Huge crowd, some people called it a biblical kind of picture. Thousands and thousands desperate for food in Yarmouk. In the end, the siege and the war prevailed and they destroyed that whole neighborhood of Yarmouk. So we want to talk about Palestinians and solidarity and how that is needed from Palestinians, from all of us. And then there's another flag, maybe you could come up a little bit. I'm sure you've recognized this, the flag of Ukraine. What has this got to do? Well, that's pretty obvious. With Russia being involved, Russia that has aided Assad, now basically is its godfather or its king, and Assad is its subject who does its dirty work. But the world did not come through for the Syrian people. They didn't aid the uprising, the revolution, in good enough terms. And we see the result now with this invasion. A lot of people talk about Ukraine and they say, Putin was worried about NATO, blah, blah, blah. It's actually the opposite. Putin saw the weakness of solidarity in Syria, and he saw the weakness in Afghanistan, and he thought now he could make his move. So people have to stick with each other. They have to aid each other. And certainly Senator Blumenthal, who has an office in that building, he has to listen. And he should do all he can to get the Biden administration to allow all kinds of aid through whatever path into Idlib, Syria. And he should continue to call for the freedom of the prisoners, the Al-Abbasi family, Kamal Naz, the psychotherapist, and all the thousands in Syria. The last point is learn more about this. We have some websites here. On this banner it says thestrugglevideo.org. There's pepeace.org, pepeace.org, and I think it's SA Council for the Syrian American Council. And do Google searches and learn more and come down and support us next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stanley, and thank you for organizing this event. Last but not least, we will hear from our own Ghufran Lebabidi, who's American Syrian. She's the president of Tree of Life Educational Fund, and she will be talking about the struggle of the Syrian refugees in Europe.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. My name is Ghufran Lebabidi. I'm a Syrian immigrant. I'm totally unprepared, so I'm gonna speak from the heart. I would like to shed some light about what's going on outside of Syria. There's a lot of struggle inside Syria, but also the struggle went way behind Syria. Myself, I used to go to Syria every year to have my children go and visit and learn and meet the family and learn Arabic, but not anymore since we stand next to the revolution in 2011 until today. We have lost. Every Syrian here who stood with the revolution has lost the right to enter Syria. So we start to go all around the world in order to see our family. So my experience, just a week ago, I came back from Europe. I had to start, with Turkey. I dragged my family, 7 people, just to go to Turkey and see the struggle. We saw our family, but also we saw the struggle. We saw the pain of every Syrian who has been living in Turkey. Yes, they are living in better situation than the Syrian in Idlib or under the regime side, but at the same time there is pain in every person we can look at their face. Every home you enter of those Syrians, you see a picture of a loved one who has gone in Syria, and they will never be allowed to enter Syria again to visit not the live people but the graves. Then we had to continue our journey to Sweden, and I couldn't believe the number. It's a huge number, scary number, that in Sweden so many families with multiple children, all those children that they have to live their life in a different country, out of their culture and their family, and especially the mother language where they can contact one day in the future with their own families. It's a huge problem that Syrian people are facing, especially the upcoming generation. I looked at Sweden. They have put the families far from each other just to fill that empty land. Unfortunately, each brother, each sister, each cousin has been thrown away in a different direction, 3 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours away from each others. And they have to live in that country because they have no right to enter Syria anymore. Then I had to take another journey to Denmark to see another part of the family and another part of the struggling people in Europe. So I call on every human. I call on every person here. We should stay human, and we should stand with the Syrian people here as refugees all around the world. We should feel the pain, and we should do anything that can help them. We should stand against the Assad regime and keep calling on him to step down to allow the Syrian people to go back to their country one day. Free Syria. Assalamu alaikum.
Free Syria!
Free Syria.
Free Syria!
Hey, hey, ho, ho, Bashar al-Assad must go, hey, hey, ho, ho, Bashar al-Assad must go, hey, hey, ho, ho, Bashar al-Assad must go, hey, hey, ho, ho, Bashar al-Assad must go.